right, here we go. We are back, episode 21. 5, 5, 5, 5, and 1. I have my buddy here, Mr. Matthew McTaggart, owner of the Graphix Spot in Bud Lake. Didn't know Bud Lake was such a happening joint until we actually got out there. I actually think the next time I come out to your place, I'm going to, hopefully it's warm. I'm going to strip down to my skivvies and go jump in Bud Lake. Think I would get arrested.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, yeah, you probably get arrested. You're like, yeah, don't come back across the street to my shop, please, because I don't want to be an accomplice. Mr. Matt McTaggart, how are you today? It is fantastic to have you on. We are back for 2022. From your Vermont roots, I'm looking out my window right now, and guess what? It's snowing, but yeah, there we are, marching the Northeast. I've just recently gotten to know Matt over the last, I would say, 4 to 5 months, and I can tell you guys, to all the audience, what Matt is doing, not only with the Graphix Spot, but just in general. When you think about salt of the earth people, this guy is living it in full. So Matt, welcome to Homage. You are number 21. Before we get into it, tell us a little bit about the Graphix Spot. I know your roots, like you're a Vermont guy. So a little bit of the journey on how you kind of got to the Graphix Spot, because anybody in the state, and Matt does work all over the place, but what he's doing in this, it feels very reminiscent of old DSM. To those that have been on the journey for the last 15 years, this is what I said to Matt the first time I met him. I'm like, bro, you're doing this right. You're doing this the right way. The amount of technology and the amount of just sheer, like, you're like, how does this happen in Matt's shop? And the magic and kind of like everything you see, and the amount of technology and the amount of precision that goes into what you do is absolutely amazing. So I'm going to turn it over to you right now. Tell us a little bit about the beginning of the journey. How did it start? How'd you get into what you're doing? And go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Darren. I appreciate it. This is I'm just starting to do more of this stuff, and I'm enjoying it so far. And it's great to sit down with like-minded people like yourself and just kind of talk shop, talk about it. So
absolutely.
I started the Graphix Spot in 2015. If we want to go back in time, how I was introduced to the industry was actually a good buddy of mine, a snowboarder. I used to snowboard, I used to compete, I used to travel. And he also owned a construction company and needed to get his vehicles lettered, get graphics on them. So instead of hiring somebody, he was like, hey, I'm going to buy the machines, figure it out myself. He brought me on board, and that's the abbreviated version of how I got introduced to this whole printing graphics world.
But were you like, so for me, so interesting part of the story, like for me, when I started, well, really, it goes even back before I started DSM, how I ended up in advertising, I guess, it wasn't even marketing at that point, it was advertising, was literally like graduating from college, coming home in June of 2000, living at home, and my mom being like, dude, you got a month to get a job. And I was a history major. Like I graduated, that's what I'm saying. Like, did you know you wanted to do this? Like, is this what you studied? Or like my journey to where I am now is very bizarre, like extremely bizarre. And so was it that way for you? Or did you like when you hit it, you were like, all right, this is what I love?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Darren, and I don't even know if you know my full business history, if you will. Okay. I started my first business at 10 years old. So I did not know that. Yeah, you ready for this? So at 10 years old, my dad said, I want you to start. My dad was in business. I grew up around a family company, home improvement. Okay. So my dad, encouraged me to find a way to earn money instead of just allowance of doing chores or whatever. He's like, find something where you can sell a service to somebody and get rewarded, and earn money. So I saved up and I bought a gallon of paint, and I lived in a big neighborhood, and I literally went around to the neighbors, and people back then had what are called bulkheads, the steel outsides to go down into your attic if you had that type of house.
Yeah.
And if it's rusty and peeling or whatever, I would offer the service to paint that. So I would go around and knock on the doors and say, hey, this is Matt's painting service. And, I'm happy to paint your bulkhead for 25 bucks or whatever it was. And, I was 10 years old. People were like, sure, go ahead, and that was really my first business.
Wow. That's pretty,
Yeah, so,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You are painting bulkheads at 10 years old for 25 bucks a pop. Bro, were you like cleaning up the neighborhood?
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And so it was my first like feeling of like earning, working and earning something.
Yeah.
So I've had a couple of other ventures throughout the years, but graphics, no, I wasn't always like, I'm going to get into graphics. I kind of fell into it. Like
so you weren't a designer by trade or anything.
Not a designer by trade. No. And don't be fooled. I can get around Illustrator and Photoshop fine now. I had to.
Right.
And that comes with years of working at other agencies and working at other signage companies and shops. So yeah, fast forward to the Graphix Spot. I just wanted something that was mine. I didn't want partners. I didn't want to work for anybody else. I wanted to come full circle with that entrepreneurial spirit and go for it. So like you, Darren, you got to surround yourself with people that are better than you at things. Yep. And you got to go for it. So I had a great business mind, and I knew enough to be dangerous. And we started the Graphix Spot.
Bro, you're dangerous. What you got going on over there is crazy. Like when I walked in there, a lot of my thankfulness, like in doing this series and going through, starting it during COVID and just kind of like trying to be as transparent as possible. A lot of the comments that I've gotten back on this hasn't been like, I mean, the guests are interesting, and obviously there are people like the first one was my mother, and it's gone all the way to, now you'll be number 21. But like the stories and a lot of the comments are like, wow, these stories are really cool. But on top of that, what's even better is there's a lot of people who were like sitting on the sidelines who then were just like, wow, we saw this and we didn't think we could do it. And this was kind of like the impetus to get us off our asses and to do it, which was really cool. So to your point about having a little bit of knowledge and, kind of parallel pathing to what I was telling you, like I was a history major. I just needed a job. That's how I got into advertising. And now here I am 22 years later. And, I have people are like, oh, how do you have this? It's such a great accomplishment for 15 years. And I'm like, what you just said, surrounding yourself with good people and finding like my dad, similar to your story. My dad was an old school guy too. He had his own business. My journey was a little bit different. I mean, I just used to go around cutting grass or like shoveling snow. Like I never got as savvy as you did. I feel like you're the Scarface of Brattleboro. In terms of like cornering the market, I just literally walked around and did all the heavy lifting. But if you have the passion and a little bit of intuition, you can do it. To your point about wanting something for your own. I mean, when I started this, it was really, honestly, it was just about like, there's got to be a better way to do this. There has to be a better way to do this. And understanding the things as I've grown, understanding the things you don't want to be helps you to become what you ultimately want to be in the long game. So kudos to you, man. I did not know that. That's an awesome part of it. I'm going to start calling you. Well, now you have two nicknames. You have Marty and you have Scarface. Or we'll call you Pacino, whichever one you want. Graphic Spot. So, okay, fast forward, you come down here because you're a Vermont guy. You have your whole previous life, you have your career going on. You come down here, you start the Graphic Spot with your buddy doing cars or truck, whatever. How does it become what it is today, where you have all this crazy technology and like awesome machines and do it like, the stuff you do when I walked in there, I mean, Matt's, stickers and like crazy panels on walls. Like, how did this evolve over the last 7 years?
So we, I always I wanted to be different with this shop. So right before the Graphix Spot, I was at an agency that did large format printing and displays specifically. And before that, I was at like a franchise type of sign company. Very, very different on the spectrum. A lot of printing, there's a lot of sign companies, there's a lot of companies that kind of do it all. And when I started the Graphix Spot, the very beginning, I was like, I'll do anything. I'll print anything, make anything, t-shirts, pens, hats, caps, signs, yard signs, you do anything to generate business.
To build it, yeah.
So, you do anything. And then you take a hard look and you're like, I'm going to get swallowed up if I'm the same. What's going to differentiate me? What's going to make this company different than the rest of the shops, Yep. So what I did, Darren, is I started partnering with people, believe it or not, marketing agencies, and then also people involved in commercial real estate. And I found this weird niche in office spaces. Yeah. And I started doing research, and there are some large companies that tailor to it. There's not a lot of small to mid-sized companies that focus on just interior spaces. So I put tons of energy into this whole like office space thing, as I call it. And it's been really fun. It's been a really, really cool, different thing to offer. And saying no to things, that I used to do was really challenging in the beginning, and it's paid off. I put so much energy into that, obviously, and then the pandemic came, which offices closed. So that was a bit of a challenge, but we overcame that. And,
so how did you evolve during that time? Because I mean, when you build something, when you make the decision to build something around a niche like that, and you're making sacrifices to not do all the stuff that you did at the beginning, like we did the same thing. Like the first project we ever did, I think it was a print ad for a restaurant, but the second thing was like a sign for a florist. I don't know. The first thing about it, I'm like, how do I do a sign? Like I got to design, we got to design it, then we got to actually get it made and like find that. So you like piece it together, but how did you overcome that? If you built something that was specific to a market and you sacrificed a lot to not do everything, which I think is very smart. I had to learn that too, the hard way over time. How did you overcome that over 2 years?
I think like everybody in that situation, when the pandemic came, it was like, what am I going to do? So I took a good month, like everybody stayed home, and put my thinking cap on. I was like, well, offices are closed and people are not going to be moving into new offices. They're not even going to be in spaces. So what am I going to do? Immediately, I just started to see a need, and we saw it happen early, which was safety signage. So those stupid things you stand on when you're waiting in line at Starbucks or Dunkin', all of that stuff, we had the machines and the ability to make. And we teamed up with one of our manufacturers, 3M, and we started a campaign right away. And it was, hey, we can offer this stuff. Hopefully it helps. We got categorized as a vital service, by the governor. So we were able to actually stay open in the summer of 2020, which was helpful. And believe it or not, it was nice working in spaces when no one was in there. So we were able to go in, and Darren, this smart company knew that they were going to ride this out. So if they had a renovation budget, if they had projects that were already in the works, it was great for us because nobody was in the spaces. So we got to go in and do our thing without anybody watching or bothering us. And so it was a very, very different time.
That's actually interesting. I never actually thought about that. When Matt's talking about like the stuff that he does, it's like big stuff, like big panels, and like anybody that has a chance and is rolling out through Bud Lake, like call Matt up, go see it. You from the outside, you're like, how is this going on in here? Like I was floored. When like Clayton introduced us, I was absolutely so Matt and I actually met at the Jersey's Best. Matt right behind him there in the picture is his Jersey Best. You do a great job of half. Yeah, there you go, buddy. A little self-promotion. But we met in like October. I think it was like September or October. And like as you're doing it, like I didn't even think about that. A lot of the spaces you probably did prior to COVID, there was like people everywhere and like you had to maneuver. Like tell the audience, like when you're doing your thing, and now obviously it's probably evolved a little bit because people are like getting back to workspaces and whatever. Where do you guys work?
We're all over the place. Honestly, we go where the work is. Our radius is pretty much New Jersey, New York City. We will go to Connecticut, Philadelphia, wherever the projects kind of bring us. Our projects take longer now to plan. So we're one portion of the project.
Yeah.
And the way things have been for the last couple of years, supply chain issues, things are delayed, and then we're like the very last guys to go in. So, we work all over the place, but really new construction. So if an office is being built, they would need our services. Renovations, they're going to need their signage replaced or redone. Companies like DSM, when you guys do a rebrand and you help a client out, totally new facelift and everything like that, they need signage, they need graphics, they need art in their office. Or now a new thing, Darren, is, companies are downsizing because they have giant spaces and they realize half the staff can work from home or maybe part-time in, part-time out. They're going to move into smaller spaces because they will still need a space. They're going to need what we do. So we're offering our services to even, anybody that moves into a different space.
Yeah. One of the things that, well, other than the fact that like, you're a rad dude and like I really like you. I like hanging out with you. Matt and I have shared a few meals now, and it's just we both like to eat and drink. It's a lot of fun. You're a fun, lot of food. But one of the things that actually is important, and it's like really my only skill at this point. I joke with everybody. It's like just connecting people and like understanding the connection of where you're at to like a guy like a Gary or a guy like a Dan or, understanding how you get in. Cause like you said, you're kind of you're like the finishing piece. You're like the icing on the cake. And then it's like everything's beautiful and ready to go. And these people are coming into their spaces. So do you see, I don't want to bring it up, but you kind of like mentioned it here about the supply chain issues and things like that with regards to the materials. Do you foresee with like what's going on in the world now? Because we were dealing with the COVID issues of like supply chain, and now there's like this other whole war thing going on with like supply chain issues. Do you see, is a lot of your stuff produced here, or is it like, are you seeing a lot of supply chain stuff? And like, how do you think it's going to be through the rest of 2022?
Well, I'm obviously I'm optimistic. I'm a positive person. I always see the glass almost full. But as far as materials, we've been okay. We've had some hiccups and some things that just weren't available. I'll give you one example. We use what's called a laminate, like an over laminate to protect our graphics.
Yeah.
We use a matte finish when we're doing wall murals inside, so that way there's no glare from any lights. So basically your artwork looks nice and flat. There's no shiny spots or whatever. Well, for some reason, matte laminate was just unavailable in the country for 2 months. And it's like our number one, we use certain specific brands. So that was kind of weird. So we just had to, rethink things and try some different materials and brands or whatever. But we're okay so far in what we make. We have domestic warehouses here that are pretty full. And we fabricate and build almost 80% of things in-house.
Yeah.
So that's pretty helpful that I don't have to rely on overseas vendors for making things. It's really just making sure that we have raw materials here. But I hope that it gets better. I don't see any huge things in my industry that are going to mess us up too bad. And I hope things get better for other businesses that are affected so far. And hopefully with everything going on, it doesn't get worse.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
It's interesting being in the space because it doesn't really, outside of like if we do an office space with you and there's a material, it doesn't really affect us like in that way, because predominantly what we do is design and then advertising, or like the marketing side of it, a lot of strategy. So it doesn't really affect us. Not that I don't think about it, because I mean, we have clients from roofing that, between labor and materials, and it just, you hear these stories and you're like, oh my gosh, like I give folks, our vendors and our clients and things like that, and guys like you that have to deal with. It's not just a service. There's actually like an end product that there's so much that goes into it. I give you kudos, man, because like, it's not something that I particularly have to be aware of in my business other than how it's affecting like a campaign. Like, oh, our roofer doesn't have enough manpower to like do a job or something like that. So kudos. With regards to, and I bring this up because a big part of the Homage series is as a thank you, obviously, as the title says. Matt and I, when we met,
I'm not sure about that.
Oops, sorry about that. That was Siri talking to me. She's still not sure about it. I'm sure about it, Siri. I want to know with regards to, I don't think any of us can see past the next year, but like, what's next for the Graphix Spot? Like, where do you want to take this? This is what interests me, because when Matt and I met, I was kind of like, the beginning of this year, just, it hit hard. Like, we had some stuff go on with DSM and with Omicron, and like nobody was in the office, and Matt was there. And when Clayton introduced us and I got to go see a spot, I was like, it kind of like reinvigorated me. And so I joke with Matt, because he's always kind of like, yo, man, it's good to hear that. Like, I'm kind of like, you don't realize the power that when you find a relationship. I think what's important, when you find a relationship where it's not just someone taking or not just someone giving, but like that exchange of information or that exchange of like morale or things like that. There's so much power in that to what we're doing. And I think it's missing on so many relationships that I see. And you could tell it very quickly. Like, if someone's willing to participate, I guess, in that relationship, it's very important. And that's a lot of what you, although you may not have known it, or you may not have thought you were doing it, it's a lot of, you invigorated me a great deal over the last 3 months. So for that, I owe you a great deal of gratitude, to get back to the roots. Sometimes we're looking too far ahead and not seeing the power in what other people are doing and how they've had to go through some of the challenges that you did, that frankly, I don't have to think about and realize like, oh my gosh, like maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was, or, to see somebody doing it. So thank you for that. Where do you see the Graphix Spot going? Like, where do you want to take this? Matt, you there?
Definitely want to. Yeah.
You froze. You're back. All right, you're back. You're good.
You froze too.
All right. So did you hear what I said?
I did.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely want to scale. We definitely want to grow a little bit, just so we can service clients a little bit more. But I still want to keep things manageable. And when we met, you were like 15 years and I'm 7. You're like, you're right in the middle. And you looked at me and you said, hey, the advice I give you is keep doing what you're doing, which is not getting in over your head and trying to keep overhead low, not trying to bore people with like the business side, but it's easy. It's easy to get sucked into it and take on more than you can deal with. And I've tried to keep it this way. Sometimes it can be overwhelming when you're at capacity. You're like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? But it's really worth it. And I don't know. I see us definitely scaling so we can grow. I want to support more people. I want to grow the team, and give back a little bit. It's funny. You're 15, I'm 7, and I have a couple of grassroots guys that I know that are just starting out. And I'm like, I need to give back to them. I need to give them advice. I need to kind of help them a little bit year one on some things that worked and didn't work for me. So it's really about, like you and I, surrounding ourselves by like-minded people with the same energy and positivity. And, it's a big world. So let's work together,
Giving back, I think, and I've had a lot of great mentors that have taken me under their wing as I was growing this. During, one of the homages was with my mentor, Kenny, his daughter, Kim. And there were some really challenging times at the beginning, where, I mean, his career, he was a big time exec, real estate exec at Viacom. And he would just tell me over a dinner, something simple. I'd be like, oh my God, like year two, I'd be like, I can't do this anymore. Like, what am I doing? And he'd be like, just stop. And he had a way of just being like, here's something that I took from my career early on that was probably 87,000 times bigger than what I was dealing with, because he was dealing with like a publicly traded company and like real estate somewhere in like Paris, France or something like, and he's like, but being able to pass that wisdom on. Oh, I love that you brought that up, man. Being able to pass that wisdom on to folks that are behind you, that is, in my opinion, the secret to life. Whether it's your kids, whether it's your, the people that are that work with you at your company, whether it's guys like that that are a year in and you're like, oh my God, like, because you realize when you're talking to them, you're like, I dealt with this. I've already got it under my, I've already got that arrow in my quiver, and it's like, it's an amazing feeling. To me, there's nothing better than to be able to do that. So, wow, that was a good segue, dude. Great job. You're like doing my job for me here. Tell us a little bit about what makes Matt McTaggart tick. Like, other than the giving back part, like, what do you like to do? What drives you in life with regards, because there's got to be more than, the Graphix Spot, although it plays a big part in my talking with you. I know, that you have things in your life that are important and the giving back part. So what makes Matt tick?
That's so deep, Darren.
I know, right? I kind of feel like it's my Dalai Lama moment.
What makes tick?
What makes Matt McTaggart tick?
What keeps you up at night?
Yes. What keeps you up at night, other than everything going on in the world right now?
I don't know, man. I'm a positive person. I really am. I look at life in a positive way. I generally almost always see things. I always see the good in things. I don't know. I like to have fun. We have a 30-foot wall in our shop that says "Have fun." It literally says that. So that's something that I kind of live by. And I won't say this is totally a lifestyle business, but we love to balance things. I like to have a good time. I mean, if it means playing golf at 1 o'clock on a Wednesday because we're caught up, that's what we do. If we're going snowboarding on a Friday morning till 3 and then coming back in for a minute, that's what we do. We work weird hours, we work whenever, but we balance it and have a good time. I like to hang out with friends. I love craft beer. I love crap beer. I love, good wine, bad wine, whatever. I try and stay pretty healthy. I've been on the kick pretty good for about a year now. I get up real early and I exercise first thing. Found that helps me a lot mentally to get that portion, to start my day with that and get my endorphins going. And I ponder and I meditate a little bit. I'm not a kind of weird guru, but I do like to think about things, and exercising helps me do that. And that kind of starts my day every day. And besides the weekends, and then just take on the day, and whatever comes at you.
Well, thanks, Matt. Thanks for making me feel like a real fatty. I don't come on, bro. I got a little bit there too. I'm older than you. It's starting to get harder and harder, but I'm gonna do it after this. I'm prepping for skiing this weekend for the first time. I actually, to the audience, I had a moment with Matt prior to jumping on. I'm like, I'm usually that bomb the hill guy, and I'm a little nervous. I'm throwing on the skis for the first time in 4 years. I'm kind of like, hey, usually before it was like, all right, let's throw the grenade and see what floats up to the top. And now I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know. I'm going to get up there. I'm going to take it a little slow. Like, I'm kind of talk about mindfulness, sort of planning that first day, see where it leads me, see what my body's telling me. And then there's the other side of me that's like, dude, just do it. Just do it. Go. I think it's an important part. I give you a lot of credit for doing it. I think over COVID, I think people got a little complacent trying to get back into a routine. I started doing it like first of the year. I was like, all right, I'm going to get back to my old routine of getting up at 6 and, you know, waking up and really the spiritual side of like, before I do anything, you know,
Yeah.
before I even like get the kids lunches or whatever, you know, sit down, read a little bit and just get into that, have a little quiet time instead of just jumping right in, like getting out of bed at 7. Like, yeah, that extra hour of sleep is awesome, but that hour of just being alone and being with your thoughts and, you know, reading a little bit and getting on that like spiritual kick, just it gives the day a little bit different scope.
Yeah.
And then getting into that, you know, the physical side of it, or, you know, running a business. Like for anybody who's listening out here, Matt and I can tell you, running a business is not easy. It's the most rewarding thing you'll ever do, or one of them, but it ain't easy. And it hasn't been easy the last few years. So that's an awesome piece of advice. I want to thank you again. Part of doing this, what happened actually after that guy Kenny, my mentor, passed away suddenly in August of or July of 2020, and being able to share these moments with people. Again, Matt and I have only known each other for 6 months, but it feels like we've known each other for like 30 years. There's a spirit of sort of camaraderie and like we're in this together. And I will say one of the things that I do love, and I'm trying to get back to the roots of doing this, is that a lot of us doing this work here in New Jersey, we kind of know about each other, and there's a lot of really cool stuff happening in this state, and we kind of play like backseat to Manhattan and everything going on there and whatever, and not taking anything away because that's where I started my career. But anybody who is listening to this, again, if you're one of the 3 or 4 people listening to this right now, all joking aside, we are like, there is a lot of cool stuff happening in New Jersey, and Matt and the Graphix Spot is a testament to that, because you see the ingenuity and you see the passion and you see the energy and you see like when you get a glimpse into the people, now that I've gotten to know you a little bit, you're like, I wish I had known you earlier. Like it sucks that we had to meet at like an NJ ad club. Not that it's bad, but like, I wish I would have known you 3 or 4 years ago. There could have been so much more done. And, you know, it's one of those what if moments. So in the spirit of gratitude, I want to say homage to you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Appreciate you very much. Hope to share many more meals and beers and wines together. But more importantly, like all the success in the world. And I mean this in the most genuine fashion that I can, like keep doing what you're doing, because you might not know it, but you're helping people that are behind you on the journey. You're also inspiring guys like me who are ahead of you on the journey, that have been through a few more wars and seen a few more things, but like, you've really got me back on my game. And I'm really thankful for that. So thank you. I'm going to turn it over to you. Last thoughts, you get the mic, you're dropping it before we get out of here and get to our day. So tell the audience, drop a knowledge bomb about what you would like to see and where you want to go and how you want to do it, man, because you're doing it really well.
Well, I want to drop an advice bomb.
Okay.
And that is, and I said this yesterday, don't be afraid to go for it. Like people that want to leave a position to start a new position or start that business, don't be part-time in anything. You have to go 100% all in and don't look back, because you can't do both. You cannot. So put all your energy into it and put good energy out there. Surround yourself with good people and things are going to happen.
Love that. Matt, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, anybody checking it out, check out the Graphix Spot. They do the coolest stuff. It's amazing. like I said, the technology that Matt has in his shop is immense. Like I was floored, like the stuff that you guys were doing. Like I didn't know this stuff existed. It's like something out of like a Star Wars movie. And you're like, holy crap, like how is this happening here?
We do have lasers. We do have lasers.
You do have lasers. Do you have any lightsabers?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. So put that on the docket for 2022, bro. We want lightsabers. Thank you again. It was a pleasure having you. Obviously, you know where to find me. Anything you need. I feel like I'm indebted to you for the energy and the passion that you put out. So keep doing what you're doing, guys. Go check out the Graphix Spot. Matt McTaggart, number 21 is in the books. You're awesome, man. Keep going.
Awesome. Thank you.